Testing it, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to make a start in a moment. I just want to check whether there are any people still outside waiting to register. So I'll just do that and then we'll make a start.
It's a residence matter. It's not our meeting, it's a residence meeting.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to make a start, so could you take your seats? Okay, thank you for coming tonight. I'm Laura Church. I'm the Chief Executive at Bedford Borough Council, and I'm going to be chairing this meeting. So one of the things, many of you were here on Thursday, and so you know the kind of format that we'll be working to. I'm going to have that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is again, format that we did last time is an opportunity for you to hear from lots of different organisations that are involved in the incident. There's an opportunity to hear from experts, and some of the feedback that you gave us last time was around understanding what is happening, but also understanding the insurance position. So we have got Chris Rumsey from the Association of British Insurers tonight to give some information, and also for you to have the opportunity to ask questions. Unfortunately, the British Geological Society aren't able to be with us tonight, and I know from last time quite a lot of your questions were about what survey information and also some bigger issues. What we are suggesting is that we still want to hear those, but if you don't have an opportunity, and we will take those away, but if you'd also like to email questions in, we can pass them on to the British Geological Society. And if you use the email proffice@bedford.gov.uk that you've got in your slide pack, and we can make sure that they are answered. So we know that a lot of work has been going on over the past few days, and so we'll give you some updates around that. It is also, I'm sad to say, that the name of Paul Swales is now in the public domain. You will have seen that there's been some press interest in that, sadly. So I think that is also, we have to think about other people that are involved in this incident. Just to stress again, as I said at the last meeting, we are still really focused on safety. And really that's the prime issue for us at the moment, about ensuring safety. And you'll hear a bit more about that as we go through the presentations. In terms of your opportunity at the end to ask questions, we will have the roving mic again. And actually, we'll do the same as we did last time and gradually bring the mic forward so if you can show your hands, and then we can pick up on that. So we were also live streaming and sharing this meeting. So we already have 23 people viewing online. So that means that being able to talk into the mic is really important. And as we know from last time, it's also for someone who is listening online, making it really clear. I will try and do what I did last time as well. If we've got Chris Rumsey online, he can pick up and we can feed through so he can hear quite clearly what the questions are. So I'm going to hand over then to first presentation, which is from Jim Davis, Assistant Chief Fire Officer, and he has also got with him Pete Knight.
Thank you, Laura, and good evening, everybody. Again, thank you for having me back. It seems to be like a regular occurrence now. So it's really great to see a lot of you smiling at this point, considering the beginning of our journey was something quite different. So quick update regarding the current situation. Today we hit a bit of a milestone in regards to there was residents still waiting to try to get back to their properties. So as of 4 o'clock this evening, all residents now have been able to be coordinated in a way with Bedford Borough and Cadent as well as HSE in order to ensure safety, in order for you to get back to your premises, in order to collect your property. So hopefully, as and when we need to continue to coordinate that, we will. But I think that's a key milestone and definitely a key measure for us as a fire and rescue service. We will remain on scene and on site in order to support our partner agencies and the ongoing activities within that cordon area. So supporting those partner agencies, particularly around the investigation and determination of the cause of the explosion and subsequent fire. We're still yet to determine the exact cause, but that is getting nearer and nearer as we start to stabilise the structure that is going to allow us further and further intrinsic, forensic awareness of the scene. So if we could just click on one, please. I think that's a bit of a duplicate. One more, please. Okay, so as you can see there, the cordon itself is relatively unaffected in relation to what we've set at the very beginning of the incident, so it still remains at 100 metres. We are looking to ensure that that remains relevant for the ongoing future, and that will be done both with our partners in the Cadent Gas, who are assisting us with the monitoring, but also with the Health and Safety Executive's oversight. So if we can and when we can look to reduce that, we will, of course. But as Laura has already mentioned, at the moment, safety is our number one priority. That is it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. I'm now going to hand over to Paul Bradley, Head of Operations from the Health and Safety Executive.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to meet you in person. Apologies, I couldn't make it last week, but yeah, in these circumstances, I felt it really appropriate to come to site. I've been there this morning, and I wanted to give you a live update on the position as we stand. The drilling company have moved the drill bit, cleared the blockage, and just to explain, the blockage was a mixture of things. As I've described in the online meeting, there was some grout in there, there was other strata in there, soil, etc., water, so it was a partial blockage, not a full blockage of the borehole. That has been cleared, so down beyond the 10.7 metres mark. That's allowed the gas pressure to now freely vent back through the drill rig, back through the vent stack, and current pressure readings are at approximately 4 bar, or 4 times atmospheric pressure. So if you imagine that 1 atmospheric pressure is 15 psi, you've got 4 lots of that. So that's the quantity of gas that is coming out under pressure, so it is coming out freely. The surrounding array of monitoring, so there's subsurface monitoring in an array that BGS are doing. There's the Cadent gas engineers that are monitoring at surface and in cavities and other areas, and those of you that have been accompanied back into your own homes to pick up your personal belongings and effects will realise that those background checks have been checked before anyone was allowed back on site, so it's really tightly controlled. The cordon remains in place at 100 metres, and I know that's not an easy thing to deal with, but we are concerned about those people that are operating the rig equipment and also the emergency services that are on site and others, to make sure that everything is managed in a controlled circumstance, and that's why we've got that continuous monitoring there. It's gone beyond the 10.7 metres mark. The drill bit is now down at 66 metres, and that was done initially using water. So water's got a specific gravity of about 1. Unfortunately, it's not enough to get the gas back into into the reservoir, into the pocket, back where we need it to be to continue the operations. So what's happened since that point on Thursday? Some drill mud or barytes, which is a heavy mineral that's mined, was sourced from Norwich, and this is the same stuff that they use offshore in oil and gas and onshore used in oil and gas to keep the gas in the borehole. That was mixed with the water to give a different specific gravity. So between 1 kilogram of water, if you had the same container, the barytes would be 4 times heavier than that, 4.2. You mix the two together, that gives you the downward pressure to get the gas back into where we want it. That mud has reached its limits, so we've had to get the drilling contractor to source additional material. That's arrived on site today. There was approximately two tons of the first load and a further 3 tons of the second load. And mixed into that barytes and water will be other conditioners, polymers, and something to seal as best they can the fracture arrangements for that mud, so to try and help with the formation cracks and other areas. And then tomorrow, hopefully, when all of that solution is mixed and the weight of the mud is available, they'll then recommence drilling. There's another, as you can work out the mass, 66 metres down to 102, 105 metres in that particular vicinity. It does need to be done in a controlled way because obviously the further we get into the hole, the more gas could come out. I'm not saying it will. We might be constant as where we are. But also it could decrease because the more mud weight you get on top of the gas, the better it is. So it's controlling that. And the continuous monitoring and checks will be in place while all of these activities are taking place. So just taking you on to the next steps, I've covered these really, it's just a summary. The barite has been sourced and delivered today. The mud mixing's commencing and we're hoping to get that up and mixed to give us the overbalance required for the gas to be pushed back into the strata. And then it needs the cleaning up and reaming of the borehole through to the bottom hole depth, the 105 metres. And then when we get to that position, we can determine the most suitable position for the packer to be deployed. And I'll not go through the complexities of that because clearly when the mud is there, that will hold the gas in suspension where it needs to be. The drill string has got to be brought out of the hole. The packer's got to be attached to that and then pushed through the mud to get it into place. That has then got to be expanded. So there is a 5 7/8 drill bit in old money, or just under 6 inches, 150 millimetre drill bit in the hole. The inflatable packer is approximately 5 inches or 125 millimetre, and that's got to be expanded to seal off that. Its integrity's got to be tested, make sure it's in the right place and it's holding, and that can be done. That's the gas tightness. And then hopefully all of that being in place, and we'll know in the next couple of days whether that's been successful, and we can give a further update as to the next steps. I can't give you a definitive, it will take X amount of time, because we're fighting against the physical properties of gas and the mud in a confined area with unknown things that are happening. So for example, the first lot of mud, there was twice as much mud mixed as was required for the volume of the borehole. So you can see some of the mud's been lost into the formation, and we have to accommodate for that. And that's why additional supplies have had to be sourced, got to site, they'll be mixed up, and as I've just described briefly, that's the sequence of operations. Our colleagues in the British Geological Survey aren't with us tonight, but I've been to site this morning. I spoke to the two individuals that were doing the monitoring, and they are collecting gas samples to give us chromatographic readings and analysis to give us more scientific information about source and potential amounts. Now, in the reservoir or pocket, we can't absolutely determine what that is. We may never be able to without doing extensive testing or the drilling, for example, 4D seismic activity. There's a lot of things that would need to be done to try and prove that. What we need to do is get it back into the formation, get it back into the pocket, seal it in there, and then cement it concrete so it can't come back to surface. Hopefully this revised, it was part of the original plan. Water wasn't enough to do that. Mud's been sourced to do that, and if need be, we can go higher. You have to counter that, because if you go too high, what you can actually do is fracture the formation and cause even more problems. So it's got to be a carefully managed operation. And the array around the site that BGS are monitoring is being very effective. We can see the correlating decrease in gas in the vicinity. We've got the quantities that are there being logged, and that will help BGS do their scientific analysis of all of that. I think that's probably enough for myself, but happy to take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for covering some of the information from BGS as well. I'd now like to ask Chief Inspector Rivers to talk from Bedfordshire Police.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Rivers. I'm Chief Inspector here for Community Policing in the north of the county. So this directly affects my area, and hopefully, I know you've had a few different police representatives here. Hopefully in the future that it'll be primarily me that'll come to these meetings if there are more. So just to give you an update, it probably hasn't changed too much from what you've previously been told at meetings. But in essence, and others have said already, the primary focus is the safety. But obviously alongside that is the investigation. So we're continuing to work with partners to conduct a thorough investigation into the cause of the explosion. And this will include reviewing any previous issues reported in the local area, ensuring sufficient resource of any post-incident demand. It may be likely that in coming days, maybe over the next week or so, because I could appreciate there's going to be several witnesses, and we could be talking close to 100 here, that the investigation team may be contacting some of you to get your observations around the time of the incident and maybe prior. So it's just that might come to fruition in the coming days. Of course, we're already supporting the partnership response by staffing the cordons and maintaining that police presence. Obviously, that's to support the ongoing work to maintain safety, but also, and I'm sure this is one of the thoughts in your mind about the security of your properties. So obviously, you want to maintain that security for you whilst your premises are predominantly empty. And finally, as has already been ongoing, is escorting those of you who need to go into your properties to collect any property you have there in need. And did you say that everyone's not now gone back in there to get what you need? But obviously, if that continues, then we'll be there to facilitate that. And that's the update so far, but obviously I'll take some questions at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to go on to an online contribution from Chris Rumsey, who's the Assistant Director and Head of Public Affairs from the British Association of Insurers. So,
thank you very much. Can you hear me okay in the room?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to check, thank you. I mean, firstly, our sympathies are with everyone who's been affected by this tragic incident, and I'm very sorry not to be able to make it up to you in person this evening. As I say, I'm Chris Rumsey, I'm the Head of Public Affairs here at the Association of British Insurers. And I can't comment on individual cases this evening, but hopefully what I'm going to try and do is provide some information and advice on the general insurance and industry position. And we've provided some information for the Council as well, which should hopefully be able to be shared with the pack from this meeting. And I'm very happy to take questions during the discussion later on in the meeting. The best advice we can give to everyone affected at this stage is to get in contact with your insurer as soon as you can to discuss the situation and understand what support may be available. Generally, where properties may have been affected by physical damage following the explosion, then alternative accommodation will generally be included as standard, and by speaking to your insurer, they'll be able to work with you to understand what support may be provided, make any emergency payments that are required, and also provide that alternative accommodation where it's needed. Where physical damage to properties may not have taken place, then alternative accommodation is not generally included as standard in most policies. But our advice there is still to speak with your insurer as soon as you can to understand what support they may be able to provide, and to say all cases will be kind of considered on a case-by-case basis. So that is the best advice we can give at the moment, to have those conversations with your individual insurers and understand what support there is available. And then appreciating that the cordon is still in place. As that cordon is lifted and as you're able to get access to properties and return home, then insurers' priority at that stage will be to get out on site to properties where they can to assess any damage and to work with you to look at what repairs or claims process may need to be taken forward as quickly as possible. So that overall is kind of the position when it comes to insurance and incidents like this. As I say, I can't comment on individual kind of claims or commercial decisions by our insurers, but what I can do is take questions in the Q&A and provide any more advice that may be helpful as follow-up from this meeting as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity to kind of provide that information, and look forward to any questions.
Thank you, Chris, for the clarity on some of those issues. We're now going to hear from Ian Brown, who is the Chief Officer for Public Health at the Council, just to give you a bit of an update about methane and health. So I'm going to hand over to Ian.
Thanks, Laura, and good evening. We know there have been some questions and concerns about ongoing health effects from exposure to methane. Can I have the next slide, please? So I've been talking today to colleagues from the UK Health Security Agency, including their toxicology experts, so that I could bring you a briefing tonight. So first of all, to say that methane is a non-toxic gas, and low levels exposure should not cause any adverse health effects. At very high concentrations, methane can displace the oxygen that's in the atmosphere around you, and then it can cause asphyxiation as a result of that. So that can result in quite obvious changes, including slurred speech and vision problems. And in severe cases, it can lead to changes in breathing and heart rate as the body tries to compensate and take on board more oxygen. And if that very high exposure continues, and your body continues to be starved of oxygen, obviously that can be fatal. In those circumstances, just removing yourself from the situation, going to a more well-ventilated space, or in the case of somebody who's, for example, has lost consciousness, they might be given an oxygen mask. Replenishing the oxygen is enough to reverse those effects. Next slide, please. What was less clear to me reading advice and guidance was that whether there would be any long-term health effects. And the advice that I've received from the toxicologists at UKHSA are that those long-term health risks are very unlikely if residents didn't experience any symptoms at the time. There's no evidence to suggest that methane causes cancer, and we've also checked whether or not any health screening is recommended. And the advice again from the UKHSA is that there's no reason to screen the health of the local population because there's no expectation that there would be any long-term health effects of the exposures that people in the properties around the area would have been exposed to. We also expect that if children were exposed, it would affect them in very much the same way as adults. And whilst there's limited evidence to suggest what might happen to a pregnant woman or an unborn child, we would expect that health effects would most likely to be seen, again, if there was that immediate exposure, very high level exposure and starvation of oxygen. If you do have any concerns about your health, then obviously regarding methane, then do please contact your GP or call NHS 111 and explain what's happened. I provided in the pack a link to some more information from the UKHSA on the health effects of methane if anybody would like to know more. and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, for that summary, and also that I know that you've been speaking to colleagues at UKHSA, another one of the many acronyms and number organisations with lots of letters, which have also been providing advice and guidance. I'm now going to hand over to Craig Austin to give you an update on what the Borough Council has been doing.
Thank you, Laura, and good evening to you all. So just the update from Bedford Borough Council. Officers obviously continue to liaise with residents and provide ongoing advice and support, as we have been, and establish how we can best help you through this process. As I said the other day, we're here to be with you through this process and provide you the support. The following remains Advice and Support Centre at St Mark's. Once again, thanks to St Mark's for all the support they've given to both the residents and the Borough Council and others at this time. The financial support that we've been providing continues. 24/7 emergency helpline still continues, and we'll still carry on providing all those text updates that we've been giving to you, which I know has been helpful in particularly getting you sorted and ready to be able to go and collect a lot of your items. We've worked or continue to work with all our partners to offer everybody secure access to properties in a safe way. I've been informed that 43 households have now returned to collect their belongings, which is a considerable amount of people. But obviously, if there's anybody out there that hasn't, for whatever reason, that we don't know about for whatever reason, then please just let us know and we will do our best to sort something out, obviously doing it in a safe way. Something else we've decided to do is offer free office space with free Wi-Fi and parking at Borough Hall. So for those of you that want to work at home or work at home normally, you can do, and just obviously it's at Borough Hall, but that's we will provide you with that space. And again, if you just contact the normal numbers, we'll be able to organise that through the relevant staff. So 31 households now have been accommodated. For welfare assistance, 43 households have received welfare assistance, 96 have received clothing payments through our financial support package, and they continue to be made, as we said we would do. The emergency helpline, 219 calls are now being answered in total. The average wait time is still only around about 2 minutes, which is very good. From a bin collection perspective, I know some of you have, when you went and managed to get back into your properties to collect items, a large proportion of you, obviously where the electric has gone down particularly, had a chance to get some of the food out of your fridges and freezers and put them into your bins. We'll be going where we can get access to those bins and we'll collect them. Obviously we'll have to do that very safely, but that's what we will do. But also, that doesn't just stay there and that's it. If for whatever reason we need to then, when you do return and you're repatriated to your properties, we'll be there to respond immediately to that and take away whatever necessary items that you need to be taken away. Postal service, some people have mentioned about postal service. Royal Mail have said that we personally can't transfer those, and we've even asked for those items, yeah, sure.
Those of you who are on the WhatsApp group will know that I had spoken to Royal Mail. They've agreed, and from tomorrow, everybody's given me their name and address, and I think it's 30-odd households. The mail will be coming here to St Mark's.
Oh, they've agreed that. That's good.
We've been able to guarantee it will be kept safely in the office if it's not collected here. So if anybody's not on the WhatsApp group, see me at the end and I can get them added. But we have managed to sort that now.
That's fantastic news.
Okay.
They told us that we couldn't do that, so that's really good news that you've managed.
I must have asked the right people. I don't know.
Maybe,
Sorry.
maybe you're getting the right people. Maybe it's
Okay.
just they don't trust us. Maybe we even asked them to divert it to the Borough Hall post office, and they said no. So post room, but they said no.
I was just lucky. Okay.
Well done. No, that's fantastic news. That's really good. So that's where we are. And I'm happy to take questions at the end. Thank you.
So that's a good, that's the end of our presentations. But I know at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion, and Richard Fuller MP ran a session here on Saturday morning. Richard, did you want to give an update on what you're doing with all of the information that was provided to you? Sorry.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, and thank you to the council. I had a session with some residents on Saturday. We had about 4 hours of conversation with different residents. That comprised one part, which was collecting broader issues that people want to have covered, and I'm sure we'll get to some of those tonight, about insurance, for example, impact on property prices, also people's general sense of unease about returning and the confidence that we have in the agencies that said everything was fine in July, and when they say it again in September, how much confidence do we have in those circumstances? So I think that's might as well make that issue open, because I think it is a certain issue that people raise with me. So I'll be going through those issues with various government departments and others, but more broadly, although I understand the agencies are going through their investigations, as the Chief Inspector said, I think it's important that we also have our own conversation about what occurred in the period between July the 2nd and a week last Saturday. So today, on the specific questions, I've followed up with 3 government departments. Obviously, it takes more than one. So with regard to the support available to the council, because we have no understanding about how long this period is going to take, we hope for the best, but we have to prepare for a longer period. I have, again, asked the Department for Housing, Communities and Local Government to support our council, so they in turn can support you. We've just been through a period with flooding, which also caused exceptional expenditures for a wide part of Bedfordshire, and so I'm hoping that the government will look kindly on that. I did speak to a gentleman called Sir Stephen Timms. He is the Minister of State in the Department for Work and Pensions, which sounds a little odd, but that's who the HSE reports into, and I've requested a meeting with Sir Stephen, and I'm hopeful I'll get to see him informally tomorrow. And my questions there, the 2 specific questions I've asked, relate to what are the regulatory powers of the HSE when it comes to instances such as this, because as we learned last time, there are regulations that relate to areas that were formerly mining areas, not ours. And then secondly, on the powers the HSE has for enforcement once an incident of the identification of a gas source, natural gas source, has been made. Because one of the things that was mentioned by a number of local residents on Saturday was that it wasn't particularly clear between July and a week last Saturday of who was responsible. Everyone had the reassurance and sense that everything was going fine, but obviously it wasn't. So who was in charge of that period of time? And it's important to know there's a gap in the regulations on that. Obviously, that's something the inquiry will look at, investigation will look at too. And finally, to Michael Shanks, who is the Minister in the Department for Energy, Security and Net Zero. And my questions there are, number one, to advise him that this has occurred. Second of all, to ask, has this ever occurred? Again, we know, for example, that Nichols, who is the borehole experts here, had already done 1,000 of these, and they said, apparently, it was said at the last meeting, they never had this happen before. So has this incident happened before? What are the regulations that affect the rights of people to drill 100 metres down in their back garden next to somebody else's back garden, which I think struck most people here as being extremely odd. Are there regulations? Is there a requirement for permitting? And then finally, of course, given this incident, will the government look at those regulations again? So I fired these off in all instances trying to have meetings, but it starts to cover some of the questions that were raised on Saturday. And I'm, of course, happy to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And it's probably worth saying that Richard's asking those questions of ministers, and we are asking very similar questions of officials within departments. And the same issues as Richard has raised around, that's talking to the Department for Energy. I shall use it as its short name rather than the very long title that it has, talking to MHCLG about the support to us as a local authority that we're then providing to you, and also looking at where we can get advice and support. So we are working together to try and get answers to some of the questions that you have been asking. And that is, in our experience, the best way to tackle some of the things that we're doing it, working together, and also sharing some of that information about what we are finding out, and then Richard is also talking to us about who he has been talking to, which has been very helpful today. So as well as Richard in the room, we also have Mayor Tom, and we did have, where have you gone, Nikki? Oh, Councillor Nikki Gribble, who I know has also been here on talking to you about what is happening. So I'm going to move into the question sessions, and I have the roving mic, and I'm going to start with, if we can, it's questions of the back 3 rows, although they're not in the same level. So could I have hands up from the back 3 rows for any questions? Ooh. All right. Ish. So the lady in the red jumper, is there anyone on that row with questions? Nope. Then I'm going to move forward. So I know gentleman in the blue kind of jumpery top, and then in the kind of Fred Perry type top. I did say to you the other night that this is a bit odd, because there are only a couple of people in this room who I know names of, so I'm having to do descriptions. But I then went home and watched Newsnight, and that's exactly what happens on Newsnight. So